Oh, we could fly.
Now entering the Cup of Johanny zone, a one-woman show that discusses all the non-glamorous things that have to do with writing and getting a book out into the world. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Have a Cup of Johanny. I am Johanny. And today I'll be discussing with you the first part to On the Road to My Debut. Yay! I'm finally there. So this will be the first episode, or as I would say, one of many, right, on when it comes to the road to my debut. Because let me tell you, I have so much to say because I have so much that I have learned, and I'm pretty sure other people have as well learned a lot as they try to push out their first baby, their first book. And if you are one of those people, please put a comment in. Let me know what you learn. If you disagree with something that I say, that's fine. We can have a polite disagreement or a polite conversation about it. Anyways, are you ready for this story? And let's commence. All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is this, right? So here I was in this class, which I will not name, with this professor, which I will not name, as I am on the road to my MFA in creative writing. And I'll discuss the reasons for that later on, because I know that's also a controversial topic in the writing community, right? Should you or should you not? And so forth, right? But that will be another podcast episode for that one. However, when it comes to this certain situation, I had a professor that completely opened up my mind and changed the game for me when she looked at what I have turned in, and, and she gave me the feedback of, you should read Story Genius by Lisa Crone. And let me tell you something. I didn't just read it. I also got the Audible. That's how excited I am. I can't even say audiobook. I'm getting it confused with the Audible. But yeah, so that's what I got, right? Not an affiliate of Amazon or anything like that. But yes, I got the Audible. And it was life-changing, right? So right away, when I was when I was listening to it, because I think I had more time to listen to it than I did to read it. So I listened to it first. And I listen to it on my walks that I do in the mornings, because I also have to stay fit, right? I'm in the military, so that is a requirement to my day job, my day career. And the first thing that the author says in this audiobook is how she's noted how authors have just extravagant action scenes. This is not verbatim, by the way, so don't quote me on it. And how she notes that the protagonist, or the MC, the main character for this story, right, goes about and defeats this, defeats that, and do all this outstanding and awesome action, and it's so riveting, and it's by the edge of your seat like a movie and so forth. And then she is left gasping and asking, why? Why is your MC doing this? And where I, as a reader, can see or can read about this why, right? And I felt called out. I'm not going to lie. I felt called out. I look back at the feedback from the professor. I'm one of those people that get like super excitable and emotional, especially when it comes to writing fiction, because it's something that it's near and dear to my heart. Got it. I know that's not how every writer is out there. But to me, like, my tagline is tying experiences to fiction with a messy bow. And what is that, right? That is how I'm tying those feelings that I felt before, some experiences that I felt before, right? Or memories that I have from family situations and so forth, right? That I somehow kind of like weave, right? It's almost like knitting to me, and I weave into these stories, so that way I can make them believable, and I can make them something that I want to write too. Because just no offense, but just making everything from scratch, I don't think I would be able to do it. I have to tie it to something that is real for me and to something that I have felt. That is just my process, right? So this is why I felt like super called out when when I read this Audible. I think I may have just paused on my walk slash run that I do is super lame. It's like 1.5 miles, and I was like, oh my God, this is why she wanted me to read and listen to this book, huh? Because this is me. I'm the one writing like all these superb scenes that go nowhere because they're not tied to the character's why, right? And if you're one to listen to Simon Sinek, I think that is his name. Yes, he is an excellent speaker, right? When it comes to leadership and motivation, I've listened to him before as well. You would know why the why is so important, right? To self. So just imagine as an author, right, that we're trying to make these characters believable to humans that read it. We want to make these characters that are in fiction stories, that are fiction, that are made up, be as real as they can be, right? Because when they are real to the writer and they are real to the reader, then the reader will tie their emotions into it, and then they won't drop the book, right? They won't close the pages. They'll keep reading. So yeah, so I was called out by the book, by the professor. And it took me a few days, I'm not going to lie, to like let go of those emotions and really think through analytically. So what I usually do when I get feedback, I'm getting a little better at this, by the way. So if I ever get feedback from somebody else, just know this, I am growing as a writer and as a person, but I don't think I'll ever get to the point where my feelings will not be involved, because once again, writing is very personal to me. So I took a few days off to not read it, not think about it, just really digest the book and what the book is trying to say to me, right? While not thinking of the feedback. And that took a lot from me. I discussed it with my husband as well, and he already knows how I get. So it was nice to listen to him verify that I was on the right track of letting go, reading, digesting, thinking about it objectively, so that way I can get back to it with a clear head. Note to self and note to you, listeners, this is very important when it comes to feedback, right? It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. It may smash your head in. It's important to read it, listen to it, think about it objectively, and decide what you will do with it. Consequently, thinking about the why of the character and why is that so important to the reader, as it ties emotions and so forth, and it gives reasoning behind the actions, so that way the actions are believable. I scraped the story that I was drafting, that I was crafting. It was like I was like in the third editing phase of what I thought was this awesome gothic fantasy novel, which it still is, don't get me wrong, but I think my talent has not caught up to that story yet. So I have not scraped it. That was the wrong word to choose, but more like shelve it, right? It's in my drive. It is saved in my drive for me to go back to and kind of like dissect it later on, so that way I can get to Margarita's why, since that is my main character in that story. So that way I can start crafting it from there. Okay. So now once I did that and I just went ahead and shelved the Margarita story, I went ahead and created Isla's story. And that's the one that I am working on, and currently is being edited. And I need to talk about that one in another episode because I feel so bad. I turn in like crapola to the developmental editor on Readsy, and I felt really bad. I feel really bad because right now I'm going through it and trying to do like small line edits and so forth. But that'll be another episode. So what I did was I started Isla's story, and because I wanted to discuss the messiness that is involved when it comes to stepchildren and step parents relationships. And I feel like that is something that I don't often see too much in media. And I wanted to portray that. But then that is also something that I am currently experiencing as a step parent, and something that I experienced as well as a stepchild. More of that story later. But yes, so that is the story that came forth after reading this. That it's a middle grade story, so it is just perfect. I felt inspired by my stepchildren being here at home with us, and it was just awesome to see these little humans, right? And and everything that comes about that age, that is manifested in just the day-to-day living. So that's the story that came out of me after reading Story Genius by Lisa Crone. But I honed in this character and delved deep into the why. So something that I learned from Story Genius is how you have to, as a writer, right? The writer will do scenes, and then it will do scenes after scene until it gets to the bottom, right? Misconception of when that misconception was created, or when that misconception kind of like became part of that character's life, right? Because and then you'll see when we talk about this a little bit more later on, Lisa Crones calls this the third rail, which will always be touching the characters' lives and actions, right? And again, I see it as this misconception that they have built over a certain trauma or experience that they have had in the past, right? And when you look at yourselves, and when we look at humans, right, and the human species, we know that we do put walls, we do put barriers, we do these patches on ourselves in order to not get hurt again, right? Or in order to not be embarrassed, or in order to not like experience negative or counterproductive things that we have experienced before. And sometimes when we get really good at it, we do it without even knowing. Okay, so this was what I was getting after when I was searching Isla's why, and getting scene after scene after scene, right, of her figuring out herself, and why she became kind of traumatized, and not wanting to even give a chance to her second stepmom, which happens to be Mrs. Frenchie, right? And the book is titled, or tentatively titled, Mrs. Frenchie's Weirdness, and the 6 months that changed everything. So that is the title, and it's just that messiness, right? That comes from having two family members that are not familiar with one another, to come live together under the same roof. And now you have a child that is traumatized, right, or has had a bad experience from a previous step parent. And then you have a step parent who is trying to be a step parent or an adult figure in that child's life, but has no clue how. And it just it I wanted to dissect that and then see how that would turn out. And from me rereading this story now, I found that it turns out to be kind of like sad and funny all at once, and which really it's weird how it totally reflects how my life sometimes turns out, right? Sad and funny all at once, or maybe it's my perception, right? That's how I look at life. Sad and funny all at once. I try to find the funny in everything. And I guess that translates into what I write. But yeah, so when I was digging into Isla, that's what I analyzed from her, right? How she had this memory which wasn't quite clear because it happened at the age of 5, but she knows that her first stepmom hurt her, um, and she has the scars to prove it. And now here she is, 4 years later, haven't dealt completely with those scars because her family doesn't really um, believes in therapy, which is something that a taboo that I wanted to touch upon in the Latin community. How we sometimes think that church or mass, right, or religion or praying about it will take everything away. And that sometimes we don't want to think that a doctor or psychologist or counselor may be able to help in some instances. So I also wanted to touch in that taboo when it comes to that family. So then I gave Isla that obstacle as well, right? That her dad doesn't necessarily believes in that. So what does that mean for her? That means that she has been 4 years making up patches in her soul to be able to go through life, right? But then she can't know more once she comes face to face with her second stepmom. And that's when everything goes up against the wall and rolls down, and she has to figure it out, right? And it was fun writing it. But most importantly, I think I am grateful now for that feedback. Very grateful for it. And I would do it all over again, even with the hard feelings that I had, and then just the whole processing and all of that, because I think it turned my storytelling better. I'm not going to say my writing better, right? Because oh God, I need a lot of line edits and proofreading. But I think it has made my storytelling a whole lot better. So saying that, that is my long way of saying that if you are a writer or an author, whatever it is that you want to call yourself, and you see that your stories are kind of like a little hallowed, or maybe you find that you were like me, right? And you were writing all these awesome action scenes that happened, but you was like, well, why? And then you look back at it, right? Or a reader or a beta reader ask you, what's going on? Why is she doing that? Why is your character doing that? You may want to give Story Genius a try and read it. I know it did wonders for me. And this is the story I wanted to tell you today. I want to thank you so much for listening to me yap over here about my road to my debut. Debut, is that how you say it? English is my second language, by the way. So I just want to put that out there so that way you guys know. So if you hear a funny accent or whatnot, that's it. But I think I saw a meme that says just because somebody has an accent doesn't mean they think with one. So be careful what you comment, right? I reply back. Anyways, time. Because critiques and reviews and feedback are so near and dear to my heart, and they trigger me so often. Next week, we will be delving a little bit more into my experience when it comes to feedback. So you may want to stick around and go ahead and look out for that next episode. All right. Thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show. See you on the next episode. Bye. Oh, we could fly.